Welcome to a new podcast summary of the book The Great Controversy. Today, in the chapter titled The Pilgrim Fathers, we will continue our wonderful journey leaving the old European continent to discover America, the land of freedom that God had prepared to bless His people. Persecution brought the Puritans to America. However, these reformers carried religious intolerance with them until William Rogers came along. This exciting chapter takes us all the way from Europe to America. In the old continent, the Reformation had stagnated. Although the English reformers had renounced Romanism, they retained many of its forms. Numerous of the Catholic customs and ceremonies were part of the Anglican Church's rituals, which made the difference that separated Rome from the Reformed churches less visible. The Anglican Church was the official state church and was supported by the civil power, so that attendance at services was required by law. Therefore, religious assemblies of another nature could not be held without a license, on payment of imprisonment, banishment, or death. Many wished to return to the purity of the gospel, but the pressure of the official church caused the Puritans to be stalked, persecuted, and imprisoned. After fleeing England and settling in Holland, they saw the hand of God pointing them beyond the sea to a land where they could find a state based on their longed-for and desired religious freedom. Persecution and banishment gave way to freedom. The Pilgrims left Holland in search of a home in the New World. From the port, John Robinson, a pastor who would not join the journey, expressed with sadness what had happened to the spirit of the Reformation in Europe. The Lutherans cannot be made to go further than Luther saw. In the Calvinists, you see them tenaciously holding on where the great servant of God, who failed to see it all, left them. This is a disgrace to be lamented. Robinson also gave his precious advice. Be careful. I pray for you to see what it is that you accept as truth. Examine it, consider it, and compare it with other passages of the scriptures of truth before you accept it. For it is not possible that the Christian world, recently emerged from such a dense anti-Christian darkness, can at once arrive at a perfect knowledge in all things. These pilgrims immigrated with a desire for religious freedom that they had not been able to enjoy in Europe. Unfortunately, from Europe, they brought with them the belief that the church has the right to rule conscience and to define and punish heresy. Although they had fled the papacy, they brought this papal error to the New World. Sadly, the reformers were not themselves entirely free from the spirit of intolerance in which they had lived through the great persecutions in Europe. Roger Williams was the first person in modern Christianity to establish civil government in accordance with the doctrine of liberty of conscience and equality of opinion before the law. He declared that liberty is the inalienable right of all, whatever their creed, and was able to advance this principle, that every man should be free to worship God according to the dictates of his own conscience. The principles of civil and religious liberty became the cornerstone of the American Republic of the United States. The well-known Declaration of Independence states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, namely, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the Constitution guarantees, in the most explicit terms, the inviolability of conscience. No religious test shall be required as a qualification for any public office of trust in the United States. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or impairing the free exercise thereof." In the new continent, the Bible was considered the foundation of faith, the source of wisdom, and the Magna Carta of liberty. Its principles were carefully taught in homes, schools, and churches, and the effects of such teachings were evident. It was possible to live for years without seeing a drunkard, or hearing a profanity, or meeting a beggar. However, as time went on, thousands of pilgrims continued to arrive from Europe, but not all of them were seeking to live the benefits of a new life. Instead, they came guided only by the hope of earthly advantages. Political interests began to dominate the life of the church, and the great principle of separation between church and state began to be ignored. Ellen White states, "The consortium of the church with the state, however loose it may be, may in appearance bring the world nearer to the church, while in reality, it is the church that draws nearer to the world." Dear friends, Jesus was extremely clear. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what's God's. This union between church and state was never endorsed by God, but it is increasingly growing in our days. That is precisely why we must always be vigilant in keeping our freedom to worship the only true God, instead of cherishing doctrines which have no foundation in the Bible.